Well, today marks 1 year since Bola Tinubu was sworn in as president of Nigeria. A year ago, the big issues on his plate were the economy and the country's chronic insecurity problems. But a new survey of Nigerian citizens timed to coincide with Tinubu's first year in office suggests that more than 80% of Nigerians are dissatisfied with the current state of the economy. Tonight, we have reports on events to mark the anniversary and the appraisal of the Tinubu presidency from Nigerians and analysts.
But first, joining us now is Dr. Ronke Bello, who is a policy analyst and a former member of President Tinubu's campaign council, and also with us is productivity consultant and financial engineer, Dr. Sam Ikoku. Good to see you both, and thanks for your time. Before we get on to speaking to Nigerians on what they think of the Tinubu administration in the last 1 year, let's start off with Dr. Ikoku here with us in the studios. 1 year on, and here we are again. We're taking stock to see how far we've gone. They call it a low-key analysis of what they've done so far, but the ministers have been talking. Let's start off by talking about what the key ministers have said so far. But starting with you, Dr. Ikoku, do you think that somehow 48 out of these ministers have been able to internalize the actual job description they were given by the president?
Well, it's very difficult for me to say because I know the president had said they were going to be held to specific standards. Those standards have not been made known to Nigerians as far as I'm concerned. So we're having ministers literally rating themselves. We have nothing to rate them against, except the quality of life that we experience and how things have been going. Specifically, the two issues raised now, security and the economy, leave a lot to be desired. Work is being done, but we have to judge by the results, not the activity. And like you said, maybe 80% of the people haven't experienced that yet. But the question is, why not? What's being done and what's going to be done differently? And I'm hoping that we can address that today.
Right, okay, so let me bring in Ronke Bello. You were part of the Tinubu Presidential Campaign Council. He had this 8-point agenda for Nigerians. Now, when you hear that over 80% of Nigerians are not satisfied, with Tinubu's first year, what does that say to you?
Well, thank you very much, and it's good seeing you again, Ngozi. Well, for starters, Tinubu came on, and even before he came on, he made it clear to everyone and Nigerians that the road might be bumpy, that a lot was going on in Nigeria, and he inherited both the liabilities and the assets, and that he was going to fix it. Well, 1 year, respectfully, with every sense of responsibility, is still a bit too soon to close up on the president or to say he's not performing. In the last 1 year, yes, there have been challenges. Yes, there are things that needs to be done. He's rolling out policies. His ministers are in place. They have performance bonds. Nigerians are watching. Just this week, he did a lot in infrastructure. A lot is going on in agriculture. But yes, I agree with you that things are not easy for Nigerians. We're not pretending that things are easy. The president himself has never said things are easy. But the truth is, he's working. We're putting things in place for Nigerians, and I'm sure at the end of the tunnel there'll be light. Policies are for the people. Policies are meant to work for the people. And as we go on, one thing I can give the president kudos respectfully for is that he's a very present leader. He's in touch with the people. He's always talking about his policies. Even the few policies that were put out there and he thought they were not properly thought out, or they were going to be injurious to the people, they were suspended and withdrawn. So this is not a president that is not thinking about Nigerians. We all go to the same markets. The markets don't have political parties. So we're all in this together. But one thing is that the president is working, his administration is working, and they're telling Nigerians that, look, we've got this. And as it progresses with this administration, that is when we would know whether these policies have failed or the policy trust have actually succeeded. So I think we don't have 100%. We might not have 100%, but I don't think we're 0%. I think we're close to being 50 or 60% at this point.
Well, it looks like you're already putting it in a percentage point. But again, the line there that the president is in touch with the people, let's quickly jump out of the studios and see what the people think and how in touch the president has been with them.
Has actually done well. Is 1 year in office. We can recall a tremendous changes of what he has achieved. First and foremost, let me start with this student loan. From the from the beginning of democracy, we have not gotten anything like student loan. You can see people from from the remote area, they can access the loan.
There is room for improvement. One, in the youth aspect of governance, the social programs initiatives should drive down to the grassroots. Most of them are hijacked at the level of Abuja, state level, or at the level of governors, and then they select their people.
This National Assembly, many of them are confused. They don't even know why they're there. The national anthem is not our problem now. We are voted there to go and make good laws to better life of Nigerians. But many of them have gotten there now. Nobody, you won't hear Labour Party, PDP, Abga and Co. When it comes to, if you are eating, don't talk. People are hungry. Each day you go to the market, prices change. Nobody's talking about that.
We've not really had any good experiences because right from the onset there was a removal of fuel subsidy and now the removal of electric subsidy. So coupled with the rising, the dropping of the Naira value and then every other thing, there's nothing to be happy about.
I believe this present government has something to offer. Maybe we should just give them chance to do what they have to do.
Is he not feeling the pulse of Nigerians? Now they are busy arguing over minimum wage. He says he's going to give living wage. Is that living wage when Edo State is paying 70? But when you want to sit down and share millions among themselves, they share it. Nigerians have been praying. It gets to a time when God comes down to begin to deal with, we will know. So let them wake up. The economy have been battered. We know that it makes rubbish, but it should wake up. People, not until when Nigerians die, it's trying. But those areas where they are not letting them perform, let these men stop sleeping. They are playing game there. It's as if they are in the clubhouse.
I think we can actually agree that we've seen some improvements in a few fields, and even the ministers who he inaugurated to serve with him have done a good job.
Right. You've heard Nigerians there. Well, you would say very quite balanced, really. So it's not total zero, for this administration. Well, hearing from the former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, he actually says to Tinubu, pause and reflect on some of the policy frameworks. He actually says, look, some of the policies, they're not entirely wrong, but the implementation is where the challenge is. Sam Ikoku, let me come to you. Talking about some of the policies that have been in place, I mean, you understand economy, and financial issues. Not just talk about, what the problems are. Can we begin to say in the next 1 year, this is what we want to begin to see as far as policy directions, is concerned with this administration?
Well, thank you very much. We must start by giving praise where praise is due. As far as the president is concerned, he's had some real policies that could make a difference if implemented properly. He was bold enough to take out the fuel subsidy, even though he surprised us the way he did it, and there were no real structures in place to help mitigate the challenges that would come. But at some point it had to be taken, and it's been done. My concern is with the implementation, like with most Nigerians have seen. When I listened to a few of the ministers giving their report, my fears were confirmed. You don't come and tell us this is what you did in the year that's passed. You tell us what the outcome you expect to have in the next 4 years will be, and you walk us backwards to this year, so we can see that you're on track. But when you give us, when you are the one doing the job and you're the one saying you've achieved everything and we don't have anything to measure you by, it's a little bit difficult to take that very seriously. If you look at the performance management system of the civil service, recently issued performance management system, it has 3 sides to it. There's the government performance management system, there's the ministerial performance management system, and then there's the employee or, a performance management system. It starts off by the ministers saying clearly and having their intentions, translated into usable data. This is what we expect to achieve. You superimpose upon that the 8-point renewed hope agenda, and then people know what to do. Unless we have that background, we can't really tell what anybody's doing. And this is my concern. I don't want us to succeed by accident. It has to be by design. And what we're saying is, what do we expect? What's our high definition destination 4 years from now? And then walk backwards in every area, security, or especially the 8 areas the government has talked about. And then people can give them the support they need, because they do need support.
Right. Well, I think on that note, let's bring this before Ronke, Bello. And one of the issues that the PDP presidential flag bearer in the last election has said is that the president's policies are just thought out and without any proper, definition to how they can be carried out to fruition. And he also spoke about the removal of subsidy. He spoke about the economy. Tell us, since you're closer to those in government, what are those things you think you would say to people like the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and other Nigerians when they argue that these plans are good, but they're just on paper without adequate plans to see that they come to light?
Well, I agree absolutely that policies must be visible. The implementation must be something we can measure, what we can track. Because without tracking policy trust, you don't know if they're working or not. But one thing I would like to say is every ministry there, every team there has their own terms of reference. Most of them have their schedules. So it's a bit uncharitable to say we don't know what the ministers are doing. The ministers have tasks. We know we should have an idea. I think Nigerians have an idea what, for example, security should be doing, what defense should be doing, what agri should be doing, what education should be doing. I love the clips you played because what we saw in those clips was a mixed reaction. A lot of people give kudos for the policies. For the elder statesman, the flag bearer, His Excellency Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, he's played his part in Nigeria. I read what he said about the policies being the cocktail of policies that might not work. But I think that in itself, I'm not sure if he was speaking as an elder statesman or was speaking as a politician, because he's giving his own opinion, that's what I'll call it, and the truth is those policies are trackable. For example, somebody in the clips talked about the student loan. That we're tracking. Then we have the Infrastructure Development Fund, that we're tracking. Then we have some grants like the nano grants, that we're tracking. Then we have the Credit Corporation, that we're tracking. These things are out there. In Agric, there is this Agric Development Fund that even now propelled dry season farming. That's what we're tracking. So these things are policies that, we are tracking them. And policies actually, until they are felt and seen, and let me say touched by the people, they're not over. Policies are not an end to themselves. Policies are brought out. We formulate policies, and then we try to track them to perfection. So a lot is in the works, and this administration is doing just that. A lot is in the works. So the things that are working, they are being tracked. So it would be too early or even a bit wrong to say, okay, I watched the briefings of the ministers. That in information is pure briefings. Yes, they briefed Nigerians about what they were doing, but that does not mean we cannot pick from what they are doing. And if, like we always advise, that these policies, these briefings should be broken down, because I believe that until most Nigerians that probably don't even watch television or read newspapers can see and touch good governance, then we're not there. And national orientation is doing so much in that direction. So the policies are there, they are being tracked, they are going to be explained, they are being explained to Nigerians, and as we progress, I am very sure that information will take it more seriously to break it down to people's understanding. And when it is touched and felt by the people, then we know we're getting somewhere. And that's why I said we are not near getting it to the end for now. It's just 1 year, but the administration is working.
Okay, so Sam Ikoku, you heard what Ronke Bello said there, that tracking the policies that have been put in place so far. And besides, 1 year may be too early, but would you say that 1 year is too early to lay the kind of solid foundation that you expect, for this economy to truly take off on every front? What exactly are those expectations of yours? What are the, timelines, the landmarks that you'd want to see, to say, look, the policy A, policy B truly is delivering on the promise?
Yeah, I agree with Madam Ronke, especially where she said we need a bit more time. But I want us to separate policy from projects. Right. The policy is what I'm talking about. The projects like, the loan facilities and all of that stuff are necessary. They're good. They will need time for us to see. But who are the people responsible for implementing the policies? We have seen, quite frankly, some lackluster ministers. So we've seen some who are very vibrant. If you have a policy being driven by someone who's lackluster, whether you give him a year or 3, you're not going to get much out of it. I believe that delegation is not abdication. Mr. President has 48 ministers. Mr. President remains responsible for every single one of them. If he says he's giving them a performance metric to work with and they're not performing, this is a great time to get them out of the way. 4 years is a long time for Nigerians to remain in limbo. Now, with all due respect, we came in from a very bad situation through the last administration. So we must extend some courtesy and some reasonableness in how we evaluate all of these things. But we must see that there are very dynamic people in place. Another thing I say, it's too late for change in Nigeria.
What do you mean by that?
Doing the same thing cheaper, better, quicker, and getting the same results is not what we want. We're too far gone for that. What Nigeria needs is transformation. You've got to change the context. You need dynamic people who can think out of the box, who are out there in front of people. People shouldn't be trying to find out what you're doing. You should be open with what you're doing so people can support you. People know that you really know what you were doing, you know what you want, you've got the right team in place. So there are different types of metrics. While we might wait for lagging indicators after 4 years, did this government do well or not? But there are also leading indicators, one of it being the quality of the ministers that we have in place. And I think we should, Mr. President is responsible. The buck stops on his table.
If you were to quickly evaluate on the 8-point agenda, food security, for example, poverty eradication, Atiku said, look, there's a need to look at the social intervention programs that were actually put in place to help cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal and what have you. Look at all of those points. Where would you say Nigeria is right now on issue of food security, job creation, access to capital, inclusion, and all of that? So
well, for all 8 points, I would say we are not doing as well as we should. Yes, there are policies in place. Yes, there are programs in place. And not all of it is government's fault. If you look at the food inflation, a lot of it is driven by profiteering. A lot of people are just increasing prices of goods because they don't know how the foreign exchange situation will go. All of that is the nature of the chaotic situation in which we find ourselves. But if we see that government is taking concrete steps, take agriculture. The other day I was sharing, they said, 3,000 motorcycles were were crushed because there were, all of these Okada riders. And I thought that's poor thinking on the part of government. 3,000 motorcycles could have been transformed into trucks that can evacuate farm produce, from farm to market. That would have reduced the cost of things. We need to think better. Look, the true product of any country, any government, any company is the quality of its thinking. And that's where my grouse is for now.
Well, it's a pity I just couldn't glean more from your productivity expertise, Dr. Sam Ikoku. But I would like to, well, it looks like, I think I was trying to get to Ronke so that we can have our closing moment with her, but it looks like I've lost her for a bit now. But quickly here, as a productivity expert, what are those indicators that Nigerians should see, Dr. Sam, that will make us know that we're headed somewhere? If we can just list them without really jumping deep into them because of time.
Yeah. Number one, Nigerians should have more information than they need because they need to know what's happening. Number two, we've got to see agriculture. We've got to make it better for people to get into agriculture. Right now, it's not sexy. The graduates don't want to go into the farms because it's still subsistence farming. We've got to take mining and make it seriously happen. I liked what the minister said, but we've got to make that happen. We're too blessed to be in the position we're in. With security, all hands on deck. I don't understand where the small arms are coming in. I know the army is doing its best. We might need to use a bit more intelligence, be a bit more proactive. But people just have to see results, sleep with their eyes closed. And I call on everyone, wherever you belong, including the elder statesmen, to come out and support President Tinubu. We need all the help we can get.
It's a good place to leave it. Maybe to add to that, you heard the president today say, look, help is really not going to come from abroad. It's going to have to come from within. Nigerians will have to join hands and fix Nigeria. Sam Ikoku, Dr. Sam Ikoku, productivity consultant, financial engineer, thank you for joining us. Ronke Bello, unfortunately, we lost connection with you, but it looks like you're back. Policy analyst and former member, Tinubu Presidential Campaign Council. Thank you, both of you, for joining us on Newsnight.